Welcome you all with love to Parshas Mattot Mas'e. And we'll start with the opening prayers. Hashem Yekut Kedusha Brihu Ushinate Bi'ilu Imulaya Shem Yuki Bavavke Yida Shalom Hashem Gabriel Kolam Amen. Now the meaning of that prayer is to bring God, Hashem, into the physical plane, merging the heavens and earth, so we see God in everything, and actually including ourselves. Okay, now the second prayer is the Anabakoa, which is a prayer of protection during spiritual journey. Anabakoa Gedula Yamikata Tears Ruwa Kabil Renan Alka Sagavenu Taharenu Nura Nagibor de She Deka Kilavat Shamri Balin Tarin Rame Sagateka Time Gamlem Hasan Kadosh Tuba Neil Aveka Yigya Lamka Paneku Kede Kadusha Deka Sevateno Kabilishmo Shvatian Talamot Brook Shem Kavol Mot Talealamba and Amen. So I bring that prayer in because in Masei we're talking about the 42 stops along the way to the Holy Land. And that prayer was really at some deep level designed to honor that journey, which is the journey that we all take. And we're going to start a little bit at a part of that journey, Mattot. Now, here we are, it's the last really month of before they entered the Promised Land. Moshe is completing his service. Aaron, his brother, and Miriam, his sister, have left their bodies with the divine kiss. He's giving the passing on the energy to Yehoshua. So a lot is going on. But in the middle of this, we have, on one level, a discussion of vows and oaths. So, what's going on here, really? So, we have to understand the deeper meaning, perhaps, of why this is coming up now. So, when we go to the beginning of things, understand vows and oaths are words made from letters, made from sound. So let's just move back a little bit and understand that in the beginning was the Word, the primal sound created, and from that primal sound we get ultimately the emanation of letters. In the Hebrew system, the letters are sounds, and the letters are frequencies. And 22 letters emerged out of the primal energy and became sounds and words, sounds and letters, and then with form and frequency, and then from letters we had words. So we are talking very much about the power of word. Now let's talk about a slightly different way. Is that words, as they manifest, come from the world of Malchut, the physical plane, the plane of sovereignty. And as we begin to understand this a little bit more, Sovereignty is inherent for the process of liberation. It's inherent in the Torah of understanding of life, which is we are sovereign beings and we interface with the sovereign nation for the benefit of both. It's clearly not the view of the progressive communist socialist understanding that what matters is the state and the individual just fits in some way, and in whatever way they can be put in. So it's a very different vision, and the word sovereignty is key, individual sovereignty. And we'll take another step back. We call it koach ma, the power of what? And of course, we want to ask, what's that? So the power of what is the power of unique sovereignty of not just the moment, but of our function on the earth plane. Because it's the energy of Malchut. Before you can think about taking a vow or an oath at the higher level, we have to understand these principles. So, what is koach ma? Yeah, principle of sovereignty, but it's much more than that. It's understanding that the physical plane contains the presence of the divine. That includes us human beings. We're actually meant in the image of God, meaning not there's a form, but in the frequency of the divine. I'll make that distinction so we don't get into gender, because that has nothing to do with anything. It's frequency of the divine. And as that unfolds, we begin to get a little bit of understanding, so we go from koach ma, which is the frequency of the divine in all of creation, including us, and then there's one other thing we have to understand about this. That to master the principle of koach ma and be in perfect consciousness, we need to understand that we don't understand anything about koach ma. And therefore we're really not in control, and therefore we're in control. So once we understand that the principle of koach ma, to perfectly understand it means we don't understand, because it's the divine in all creation. Okay, once we start there, and we understand the power of word, which is what we're talking about before you take a vow or an oath, it's about the power of word, and understanding that. In Hebrew we have a saying, abracadabra. So in Aramaic it's Hebrew, okay? And abracadabra means I create what I say. So once we understand the power of words, the power of creation of words from the primal sound from which all creation started, now we can take a perspective on vow. And the message is, if you take a vow, it is like a line in the Torah. It has that amount of power. That's different than an oath. And to do that, we have to be very, very careful what we're doing. That's the big message, which is, in a sense, don't take the name of Vk in vain. When we're taking a vow, that vow becomes part of the Torah for us. That's a pretty heavy statement. So the message is, be very careful. This is something that should, if used at all, rarely. Oath is a little less of a commitment of the power word. So we have to understand, this is what this Parsha is about, is the power word. Now that's the beginning part of the Parsha. Now we look at the next part of that, which is Moshe and the Midianites. The Midianites, inspired by the power of the word of Balaam, tried to destroy Israel morally by having the Midianite women seduce, literally walk into the Israeli camp and seducing the men. They didn't just seduce the men, they used their power of the word that the men had to commit to Baal Peor. In other words, commit to idol worship in front of the idol. Okay. So it was a direct use of the power word to involve these men to break them away from their commitment to God. So it was a direct attack on Israel, and that's the key to understand. And the mission of Israel. And the result of that, as we learned last week, 24,000 men, a plague broke out, and 24,000 men died, Israeli men, and it was a whole catastrophe. So now there's a response to that. And Moshe appoints 1,000 people from each tribe, including the Levites, since this was spiritual warfare. Levites had to be involved, so it was 13,000 warriors. And they decimated the Midianites. They killed all the men and boys of fighting age. And they brought back the animals and the women and children. Moses was upset because the women, the Midianite women, were the ones who were the active seducers. What are you thinking? And so maybe this is one of the first acts of equality. They weren't going to, he wasn't going to accept their sexism. And so all the women who were involved in this were killed. The young boys were killed. And only the girls who had not been involved in this were allowed to live. This seems pretty severe, but the result of blocking God's will and destroying the mission after 40 years is a pretty serious thing. To kind of see that big picture. And there was a message given out to all the nations. No one is going to block our destiny. What that destiny is for Israel to return to the Holy Land and become a nation. And the big part of that destiny is to create a space for Hashem to dwell on the physical plane. Which is, we're talking about all of Israel, but in specifically the Temple Mount. So that's the bigger picture of Mattot. There's one other point here. Is it also a time of, as I was explaining earlier, a transformation, a passing on the lineage to Yehoshua and to the new tribal princes. The old tribal princes who were the 10 spies who kind of undermined the energy and cost of 40 years in the desert were gone, and now it's the time for new tribal princes as well. And in that process, the word for tribe had been Sheva, which was really means club and a weapon. And the name was changed to Mattot, which is the name of the Parsha. And so Mattot is a staff rather than a club or weapon. And that staff then moves each tribal into more of a spiritual frequency. So that was a part of that transmission. And now, as they're getting ready to enter the land, we enter the Parshas of Masei. Masei talks about the 42 stops along the way. And there's lots of metaphors for it, but 42 is also a permutation of Duke Vavke. It's also the name of, it means love, it is mentioned 42 times in the Torah. And the word ahava, which is also mentioned, which is the word love, is also mentioned 42 times in the Torah. So we're bringing kind of some energy in here. But the idea of journey is the key. And everyone has their 42 stops along the way. And if we're having a deeper understanding, as I previously mentioned about Koach Ma, which is we really don't know what's going on, which is a good place to start. I mean, we can go with the flow, but we have no idea. The journey, every time they were just given the message to move. They didn't know where they were going, so they had these 42 stops along the way had to do with, we're stepping off into the unknown again. And so they're really, it's a metaphor for the journey of our life. Now some of us think we know what we're doing. That's just not what is going on. No one is in control here, except Hashem. And so it's the deeper teaching is don't even pretend you think you know what's going on. But you are on the journey, and when God says move, you move. Wherever that goes. You follow, in this case, they follow the cloud during the day and the beam of light at night, the fire at night, and you move. That's the best we can do. And we move with the understanding is we don't know what's going on, and we need to have that faith and trust. And it's a message that people, who, again, think they're in control, that just isn't what's happening. So that's in a sense, the big picture of Masei is that the 42 journeys are our personal journey that all of us take, the 42 stops along the way, and it's proceeding with the willingness to live with the awareness that we don't really know what's going on, but we need to have faith as the journey unfolds step by step by step. It takes a lot of spiritual courage to approach this consciously. Now, in this process, they also, it talks about the boundaries of Israel, of Am Israel. And there is no one set boundary, which is again part of the story. There's no one set journey, we don't really know what's going on, and there's at least 5 different boundaries. We have the boundary that is given to Masei, we have the boundary that was given to Abraham from the Euphrates to the Nile, that was Israel, give the boundary as when they went into the promised land, whatever boundaries they worked out. We have the boundary that we presently see. And the message is everything's going to fluctuate according to the consciousness of Am Israel. And the final boundary will be the whole world. Now, that doesn't mean that the Jewish government's going to run the whole world. That's a complete misinterpretation. What it means is the awareness of God will imbue the whole world, and the whole world will be aligned according to the different cultures and so forth with the directive of God. So in a sense, Israel becomes the whole world, which is our openness to follow the will of God. It is good to understand that these boundaries fluctuate, and they're part of that journey to the 42 journeys for the nation of Israel. And so we, again, are helped by seeing the bigger picture. We don't really know. There's no set boundaries. There's no set game plan that we think we know. It's only the will of God. And our work, as we look at this, is to do the best we can to align ourselves with the will of God. May we be blessed with this understanding. Amen, amen, amen. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shalom, shalom, shalom.